My wife's 4-year affair, a story of betrayal and unanswered questions. My wife recently confessed to a 4-year affair, admitting she cheated out of boredom. She left weeks ago, and now she wants to come back. This all came crashing down on me, her 40-year-old husband, after 17 years of marriage. We have 3 daughters, ages 11, 13, and 15, and have been together for 23 years since high school. 3 days ago, my wife came home from work. The next day, she had to go back to her job, but not before quickly packing an overnight bag and leaving. Our oldest daughter was home, so that's how I even know this happened. My wife was a sobbing, panicked mess, barely able to speak when our daughter tried to talk to her. Since then, she hasn't responded to any of our calls or texts. Immediately called her parents. They eventually replied saying she was safe with them and urged me to be understanding and patient. That's all they'd say. I tried reaching out to her brother, sister, and a close coworker. Her brother claimed to know nothing, and her coworker said my wife arrived at work 3 days prior but left by midday. She just knew there's been no communication with my wife or the kids since. With no answers, I'm trying to manage life with my 3 daughters. When they ask what happened with Mom, all I can say is she's with Grandma and Grandpa, and we need to be understanding and patient. It's agonizing to sit here in limbo, just 3 hours away, wanting to rush over there with the kids. The children. I think we had a big fight and are getting a divorce. That's far from the truth. We never argue, and they know that. I'm so lost and desperately seeking a logical explanation. My mind is racing and I can't process anything. Your spouse is usually the first person you'd turn to in a crisis, and my wife would be mine. Perhaps some old trauma was triggered, but nothing makes sense. I'm stuck here with the girls, clueless about what to do, filled with anxiety, fear, and anger. Why would she do this to our family? Update 1. The affair comes to light. I apologize for my lack of Reddit experience. I didn't sleep last night. It was a long one. I read all the threads yesterday, but don't plan on spending much time online today. I finally read the responses. I'll just share what I know and leave it at that. Last night, I called the police after my father-in-law didn't. As many of you suggested, a wellness check was conducted. I won't go into the details of the resulting chaos, but my wife has been having an affair for at least 2 years, possibly longer. Everyone was right. The other man reportedly died that night from a heart attack on Tuesday. It seems my sister-in-law and mother-in-law have known and been covering for her. My wife still hasn't contacted me or the girls. I'm trying to hide this from them, but honestly, I don't know what to do next. This revelation is almost my undoing. Thank you for your support and guidance. I'm not sure how to move past this news. Please pray for me and my girls. Update 2. Seeking support and coping mechanisms. A few people suggested this sub. And I've been reading posts whenever I have free time, usually at night after the day's chaos. That's when my mind takes over, leading. 2 depressive episodes, then intense rage, then both at once. Sleep is nearly impossible. Like a zombie, I go through my days, trying to learn all the acronyms. I guess Friday was my D-Day. I initially thought her affair lasted 2 years, but it now seems highly probable it was longer. She had known the man she cheated with for some time. The disclosure came after he sadly died of a heart attack. With my eldest daughter's help, I continue to research. I'm not ready to post about a lot of topics yet. I honestly didn't intend to keep posting about my situation. But the overwhelming support and guidance I've received have been therapeutic. It's painful to know so many others are going through this kind of pain, and I'm so sorry for that. Yesterday and today, I met with 2 different attorneys to discuss my options. I also made calls about therapy. But wait lists are incredibly long where I live. I'm trying to follow advice. Like abstaining from drinking, though I don't and never have, and exercising. For my age, I'm in excellent shape. But finding the motivation to work out is a struggle right now. I know many of you want details, but I'm just not ready to go into all that. It feels like a new bomb drops daily, and all I want is guidance on one thing so I can get some sleep. My wife is the mother of my 3 beautiful girls, and my best friend since high school was everything to me. Our secret handshakes, our inside jokes, everything is gone. It's just gone. Reflecting on all our years together, every milestone, every laugh, makes me incredibly depressed. It feels like she didn't care about any of it, and won't be in my future. Naturally, how could you question surfaces, and I'm consumed with rage. I punch the mattress and scream into my pillow until my arms hurt. This cycle is terrible. Only sleep because I'm utterly exhausted, and when I wake up, the mind games restart. All my energy goes to my girls, who have been trying to care for me like I'm their parent.
Oh.
They aren't being treated fairly after learning about the affair. How did you all sleep with just your thoughts?
Oh.
How did you cope with the emptiness and silence at night? Besides my daughters, I've decided sleep must be my top priority in all this. I'm hoping you can help because I just can't. Thank you all. Update 3. A conditional return and the path to divorce. I apologize for my relative inexperience. On Reddit. It's been a little over a week since my D-Day. I'm unsure how much of my circumstances I should reiterate. I've since discovered my wife's affair lasted over 4 years, with no precise time frame yet. It most likely began emotionally, before becoming physical. I'm also curious how the pandemic and lockdowns affected this. I may or may not find out the answers. In any case, my in-laws unexpectedly visited yesterday to see their grandchildren. Since the start of this ordeal, my wife has been staying at their house, which is utterly ridiculous. Naturally, they greeted the girls for 15 minutes. I have 3 girls with my wife. They then requested a private conversation with me. As you can imagine, the chat was lengthy, and I don't want to go into detail here. My wife wants to return home, but is afraid of the consequences and unable to confront her past. Her parents also did extensive research to see if I intended to file for divorce. They put a lot of effort into persuading me to forgive my wife and keep the marriage together. They wanted my wife out of their home, but it was also obvious they were extremely humiliated and ashamed. The conversation was polite and courteous. I admit I misled them by saying I was unsure of my future intentions, since I planned to get a divorce. However, I fear that if I tell my wife, I will never get the truth and may never understand, if at all possible. I would like her to sit in front of me and explain everything. I want her to look me in the eyes and tell me everything after 17 years of marriage, being together since high school, having 3 children, and experiencing countless memories together. Additionally, I want my children to understand that I offered her the chance to apologize, explain herself, and resolve the situation like responsible adults. I'm constantly trying to decide which course will be best for my children. I'm not sure. Perhaps I'm not doing it correctly. I can't legally bar my wife from our house. The attorney was very clear about that. Therefore, even if I really don't want this right now, I can't stop her from coming home. In fact, my girls and I have started to establish a pleasant routine. I made a demand that, in my opinion, would be impossible to fulfill for some time, if and when my wife sat down with me face to face, looked me in the eyes, and told me everything about her affair from beginning to end, without hesitation or more. Lying, I told her she could come home. She would then need to meet with the girls, apologize face to face, and answer their questions. It's only fair, I reasoned, since they already know. Once more, she is legally free to return home anytime she pleases and is not subject to any obligations. However, I might be able to take advantage of her fear of us. Is that wrong? I'm not trying to be cunning or dishonest here. Simply don't want to live together just yet, if I can postpone it. Our state has a 90-day waiting period before a divorce can occur. In any case, she will inevitably return home. Life will continue despite this disaster, and ultimately we will both need to return to our jobs. I simply wish to extend it in order to plan and improve my emotional and mental well-being. My wife says she doesn't want a divorce, but she has been texting the girls, apologizing to them repeatedly. The texts have been shown to me. She inquires about me every day, and the truth about what she has done to us is really getting to her, especially in the past few days. How can I handle this? Was my request stupid? My wife is probably going to return home sooner rather than later. Right now, I have faith in my future. This doesn't scare me because I know it will happen eventually. Whoa. As we proceed, I simply want to choose what's best for my girls and subsequently for myself. I am grateful to everyone who has been providing support, guidance, and encouragement. Update 4. The unsettling return. I apologize for the length, but I just need to get this out. Despite the awful weekend, my wife returned home yesterday. As the week progressed, there was a fair amount of buildup. Normally, when she walked through the doorway, I would embrace and kiss her, but this time, there was just this incredibly awkward tension. Before she spoke, she actually approached me and tried to embrace me, but I turned her away. Unbelievable, as if nothing had occurred. Naturally, I begged her to tell me everything. After she calmed down, she stated once more that she is not yet ready. The outcome was the same when we chatted on the phone earlier this week. She simply reiterated that. She wasn't prepared for that. When I maintained that the only requirement for her to return home was that she loved the family enough to justify her absence of over 3 weeks, I took a few long breaths and tried to gather myself. Even though it took a lot to keep from screaming at her, I didn't succeed. I abruptly stated after the first of many lengthy pauses that she had been having an affair with a coworker for more than 4 years, that she had planned to leave me for another man. She had ghosted her entire family, that she now enters the room without meeting the one requirement I had requested, and that I wanted a divorce. I suppose this is where the strangeness began. It was clear from her facial expression and body language that she was unaware of my level of knowledge regarding her affair. She gave me a wide-eyed look before simply standing in the kitchen and gazing at the floor. She remained silent and stern. This is not what I was anticipating at all. Perhaps an emotional outburst, a tearful confession, or even her cursing and screaming at me, accusing me of having the affair. Not this response, but rather a somber, "Okay, let's sit down and talk this out." To be honest, we must have stood in complete quiet for 5 minutes in the kitchen. It was simply the most peculiar thing I had ever encountered. Both she and I were obviously at a loss for words. I had read all your remarks and suggestions regarding my predicament. I even made notes. I had prepared myself for every eventuality this conversation could bring, with the exception of this one. While I sat in front of a mirror, I ultimately made the decision to document what I knew about her affair at that precise moment. I may have been foolish, but I told her what I knew, albeit with some assumptions about how she met AP, her sisters, participation, what transpired during COVID, etc. All she could do was look at the floor. She didn't say anything, so I became more and more irate, but I did everything in my power to avoid becoming profane or raising my voice. At last I calmed down. Another long, uneasy pause followed. Sadness replaced anger when everything became clear. Then I gently questioned her about what I had done to make her leave. Was I ever loved by her? Was AP worth it? She remained silent, didn't move, remained motionless, nothing at all from her. No sobs, no regrets, no shouting, no justification. She simply stood with her head down. Nothing. This was painful. Perhaps this was more painful than D-Day. Not sure whether I would have moved. I just stood there looking at her. Then, of course, things got worse. The whole interaction was being overheard by our girls. I'm just so damn foolish. Over the past few weeks, I've been putting a lot of effort into attending to their needs and putting them first, but after I confronted my wife, I became emotional and stopped caring about where they were. Our oldest daughter, who had a lot of pent-up rage, stormed downstairs and screamed. My wife hurried to the bedroom and locked the door. We are currently at that point. Before I went to sleep last night, I could hear my wife sobbing for the majority of the night. Only our youngest has attempted to communicate with her. The others have stayed away. I'm going to propose that she will remain with her sister until we can complete the divorce, if I can muster the confidence to do so. However, she still calls this place home. If we all have to live with her, it will only be a sad situation. You were all right about my wife, and I was incorrect. I was mistaken about every year we spent together, every memory, and every moment that changed our lives. I thought she would fall to her knees and ask for forgiveness. I really believed that she would confess the truth and repent for everything that had happened over the previous 4 years, thus clearing her of any blame. We are not worth it to this woman who once drove back to a farmer's market after realizing she had been handed $10 more in change than she was supposed to. She doesn't value me. Perhaps I never was. What comes next? It was really unpleasant at home today. The daughters and I made an effort to continue as we had for the previous 2 weeks, but it is obviously not feasible. All I want to do is move on from this whole situation, from the divorce, to the uncomfortable conversations, to the anticipated battles, arguments, and drama. How did you handle having to live with your unfaithful spouse, especially if you have children? I am aware that this is only the start. I keep reading blogs that say things will get better, but I'm a long way from that right now. I can't stop wanting to yell at every opportunity. Naturally, I'm making every effort to keep the girls' minds calm. But I'm not sure whether I can sustain it for 3 months before all of this is finished. School will begin. This is my life now, I suppose. I appreciate everyone's strong interest. In me, I'm not sure if the worst is over or not, but I would appreciate any help you can give me to get through this next stage. Update 5. A breaking point in regret since my wife returned home and I found out about her affair. I've been in a horrible mood. For my daughters, I've been doing my best to pretend. I make an effort to think and speak appropriately, but tonight I must face reality. It comes in waves, as many of you post every day, but tonight I was struck by a very large one and became somewhat agitated. My wife has yet to get a lawyer, despite the divorce being filed. Once more, I'm trying to be as gentle and patient as I can in this situation because I'm beginning to see the possibility of an uncontested divorce that we primarily manage ourselves. But I'm not sure after tonight. We've been living together throughout the week, and because my wife works so near to our family home, she spends Friday evenings at her sister's and Sunday nights at home. However, if there's no traffic, her sister is an hour away. It's been a habit of basically avoidance over the past few weeks, with my wife essentially keeping to herself and the girls and I trying to go about our daily lives regularly. Even though we have informal conversations every evening, my oldest daughter and my wife have stopped talking after a few heated arguments. Right now, it's for the best. I've been following a lot of your advice lately, in addition to what I've read. I put a lot of effort into maintaining my self-control around my wife, and even though it requires all of my strength and willpower, I've been brief and uninterested in our small conversations, although always being courteous and respectful. The past 2 Fridays, until now, she has arrived home from work, gathered a few things, and left for her sister's for the weekend before I even returned from work. Not tonight, though. When I got home, she was waiting for me in the kitchen. I tried to ignore her tonight, but she gently took my hand and asked if I was going to treat her this way because she wasn't ready to discuss her affair with me. By the way, since everything went viral about a month ago, this is the first time she has ever spoken about her infidelity. I made an effort. I swear to you, I tried to just walk away and bite my tongue, but I became angry because our daughters weren't home at the time. I then released all of my vices, hurts, aches, anger, and miseries. I let her handle everything. I went on for so long I can't even remember. I completely forgot what time it was. I did become a little animated and loud at times, and I did raise my voice. I simply broke down and told her how devastated I am, how much pain I endure every day, and everything that has been haunting me, and that I have been holding back. I mean, if I tried to summarize what I said, this piece would be 4,000 words long. I had no intention of stopping once I got rolling. Naturally, I broke down and became tearful once more after this. I was furious with myself. Damn it, I've been doing great. She reached me. I allowed her to affect me. I was aware that it would occur. I was aware. Horrible, I can only express. So much in the waiting room, and it has been building for a while. Additionally, my wife genuinely broke down and became emotional for the first time. She started crying furiously, which surprised me. Unfortunately, seeing that she was experiencing the same pain as I was made me pleased. I wish I didn't care. But it felt good to watch her finally cry since it showed that there was someone with some empathy inside of her. Surprisingly, she apologized several times as I was exploding. She would only mutter, "I'm so sorry," while sobbing in an awful way. Eventually, though, I left the kitchen before she could gather herself enough to say anything more. I begged her to stop bothering me. That's what occurred. She spent some time in the kitchen before heading back to her sister's house. After half an hour, the girls realized something had happened when they got home, although it's difficult to conceal. I wasn't prepared to discuss anything and don't believe they should be aware of this. Do they? I don't want to stop the two youngest from making development because they have been doing a lot better. I also don't want to add fuel to my oldest's fury by telling her about this. I detest this so much. I detest it. I ought to have remained composed. I ought to have simply ignored my wife and walked straight by her. Right now, I'm not sure. Looking back, it seems like she was merely attempting to bring up her affair, but was unsure of how to do so. Obviously, she didn't go very far because I blew up. I am now genuinely concerned for her. I don't want her to suffer any harm, but I am aware that many of you will be critical of me for this. With almost everyone ignoring her, she has been alone with her thoughts and secluded. Although it's true that she deserves it, she is still a person and the mother of my children. What a blow to me. I'm really disappointed in myself. I apologize for the lengthy tirade. I also yelled at my brother over the phone. I'll try to start over on Monday. Man, I'm only human. I must admit that it felt wonderful to vent to her, but now I'm feeling regret. Is it better to text my wife or to ignore her? I'm a complete wreck. However, I appreciate you listening, providing me with the help I need to get through this, and giving me all of your suggestions. We have all begun treatment, so that's something in the middle of the turmoil, but this is really, really difficult. It's just really difficult. Update 6. The full confession. Thank you for your concern. I am aware that many of you have contacted me. The majority of you were right. Things aren't going well, and I haven't had any opportunity to access the internet. I was hoping to take a vacation from the internet, but I've been regressing a lot this week. It has simply been terrible. My wife has been really kind and has been apologizing for her affair, crying, smothering me, and knocking on my door at night to talk. She hasn't really left me alone this week. What? I've spoken to her when I felt like it, but I've also mostly ignored her. On Wednesday night, I finally lost my temper with her and told her to stop bothering me. And it occurred last night. After her affair blew up, my soon-to-be ex-wife returned home a little more than a month ago. Now that we've started this awkward cohabitation routine, she came into my room after the daughters had gone to bed and begged to speak with me alone. In contrast to how she had been approaching me all week, I fed her first. But in order to avoid making the same mistake twice in front of the kids, we finally went to the garage and sat in my car. I apologized for the lengthy apology. She filled me in on everything. Everything. We spent about 3 hours out there. She said I'm not sure how much to divulge. I couldn't sleep, so I stayed up all night listening to her cry again. I also shed tears. I would then become so enraged that I would have to force myself not to walk in and yell at her, then sob, then rage, and so forth. I apologize if I don't reply to anyone for a day or so, but I need to get this off my chest before I try to. Sleep. Having my wife apologize and ask for another chance all the time hasn't helped. I had to leave for a few hours tonight as well in order to avoid her. Simply put, being around her hurt so much. In any case, her sister introduced her to her AP approximately 5 years prior to COVID, seemingly with no romantic ambitions. However, he was a higher-up at the company she presently works for and wanted to work for. She was able to convince him that her affair was not the reason behind her wish to change careers. However, it goes without saying that she had more motivation. After changing employment, the AP started flirting with her once she was hired. Texting at first, followed by images, and then more texting. Then, right before COVID struck, things got physical. She wanted to tell me right away after confessing to her sister, but she chose to keep it to herself. Naturally, my wife claimed that she went no contact with her AP shortly after. But he contacted her again as soon as the limitations and lockdowns were relaxed, and she continued to speak with him until the physical aspect of the affair resurfaced. She claimed to have halted the affair a few times out of remorse once businesses resumed operations, but she continued returning to him. Thus, it never ended. In essence, she provided a great deal of information. She recited the full 5-page. A packet of handwritten notes detailing her affair history, responding to questions as she went. She made false claims about weekend getaways with the girls, work-related travel, traffic bottlenecks, problems with her parents, shopping excursions, etc. The list was long, as I had expected. She told me so many falsehoods that I simply believed. Everything she said without question. They were merely a front to be with him, though it only made me feel worse to hear it all. Everyone was right. Her love, however, never truly wavered. She never became aloof during all of this, unlike what I frequently read. Though intimacy did shift, it wasn't enough for me to raise concerns. In any case, she acknowledges that she fell in love with AP and desired a life with him. He promised her luxury items, trips, and everything he could do for her. He was older, divorced, and unmarried. She claimed that the excitement of being with him was too great to resist and began to fantasize about fleeing her duties with the family. She remarked about how the everyday routines of family life bored her. She appeared to be honest, quite emotional, and extremely open. Halfway through, I started crying and lost my temper. As you can imagine, hearing it all hurt. Naturally, when she finished her confession, she told me how much she loved me and always would, and that she would stop at nothing to try to keep the marriage intact. Many of you anticipated this, yet it all seemed so phony to me, as if it had been practiced. Having spent more than half of my life with this woman, I can detect when she is acting shady. I think it doesn't matter if I'm mistaken, but I was more composed than I was the week before. Nevertheless, I became irate and said a few hurtful things, such as making fun of her AP for having several girlfriends, of whom she was only one, that he was prepared to discard. She appeared pretty offended about that, when I think about this moment when she would finally reveal all. The one-liners I might say to her, or things I could say to hurt her back. A million thoughts crossed my mind. I couldn't think of hundreds of answers during the emotional moment the other night. But I knew I would ask. If AP were still alive, and she had to choose between me and him, who would she pick? She hesitated, and then whispered, "That's not fair." I pressed the subject, and then she eventually stated she'd, of course, select me. In reaction, I said that she was lying again, which was why I was divorcing her. The last thing she said was that she began to cry. We spent some time. In the car, she continued to cry, but I was exhausted. So I simply informed her that we were divorcing, and that we owed it to the kids to be there in their lives, to be good parents, and to get along amicably. In addition, I said that I hoped she was a decent enough person to end our divorce amicably and fairly, after all the suffering she had caused me, that would demonstrate her true affection for me. Please realize that I'm not a petty person, and that I didn't intentionally mean to hurt her. When I told her that I had stolen anything from another website, it just seemed like the right way to wrap things up. However, I truly meant what I said and did, after telling her that. I would have loved her forever, and leaning over to kiss her on the forehead, I got out of the car and went to bed. Naturally, I didn't get much sleep the night before, and now I'm having trouble falling asleep tonight. I have no idea what will happen next. One positive, I suppose, is that she no longer has the chance to challenge the divorce. However, I have yet to speak with my attorney. I'm crying once more and reverting to my angry and depressed states. Hearing everything last night was really difficult, even though I could have avoided it all. She may have lied and made it up. 2. Now that I know, who knows? However, it appeared to go well with everything I had assembled during the previous month. For the time being, that's it. It seems like this never ends. I feel strong again after a few good days, and then something else happens. Even though it's only been days, it feels like months have passed. However, I will attempt to get some rest. Imagine that the one lady you have ever loved and kissed, the love of your life, informs you that she cheated on you for more than 4 years because she was bored. No relationship problems, no dead bedroom, no falling out of love, no growing apart, nothing of the sort, merely due to her boredom. I'm not sure if that makes it better or worse. Thank you for reading and for your assistance. It was a rough couple of nights, horrible. Thank you for watching. If you haven't subscribed yet, please do so and hit the notification bell too. Stay updated with more shocking real-life stories happening around you.